There's always another attempt at one of these. So what we're going to talk about right here is kind of best practices or different ways you can handle. You have a single data set that's going to end up in your analytical store. And that data actually comes from a legacy system or some historical data store, and it comes from some current system. And the schema in those two systems are not compatible, right? And what we'd like to do in the query or analytical or machine learning tier, we'd like those two data sets to be merged together. The question is, when we bring those data in and they're incompatible, how do we want to track that and how do we want to store it? And so my proposal is here on top, and the version numbers here are more about the fact that when we have these different data sets and we convert them into another data set, that we really would like our data catalog. Hey, what data is available? What have we got? Where's our, data is like the high value thing in the company, right? And how would we relate those in the data catalog? So here, what I'm going to assume is we have some modernized, quasi-modernized pipeline that is bringing data into a table, into some curated or raw zone, and then it's going to bring it into a place where people can use it. And over time, that data could actually change, right? And if we do it in a minor way, in a minor version, non-breaking way, then that's cool. And what we'll end up with is we'll end up with a data catalog entry that shows the different versions of that over time. And when you query, you can look at the catalog and see what versions you have over time. And then somehow that'll get transformed into a queryable format. It goes from producer format to consumer format, and we're good to go. And then when we bring in the historical data, we want it to end up here too. I'm actually going to argue that this is a completely different data set, or pretty much. We could treat it that way. It is a different, incompatible format that we may be able to transform into the same queryable zone. And so in that case, I would argue this is every time you make a breaking change, it's a different data set. The data sets, just like your database, should be compatible, right? Whenever you make schema changes in a data store, you try and make them backward compatible so that you can, the same tools and reports and other things will still run. They'll be correct as they were before the change. In this case, we're going to bring in historical data, and I've seen this. The dates are different, the codes are different, the audit fields are different, a bunch of things are different, and they make it where when you look at these two data sets, they actually can't be compared without some additional transformation. So in my case, I'm going to argue we need two different data catalog entries for this and a different data catalog for the conformed. And then we need pointers from the two raw zone schemas into the conform zone schema. So it wouldn't be a linear progression from one to one. Our catalog should support this anyway. It should be a transition, two transitions for the two transformations we end up here. And we actually just treat these, what we do is if it's broken, it's a major change, it's a breaking change. We're going to handle that differently than we do minor changes here. And this is what I'm proposing. What I would say not to do, just say no. I worked at a couple places where we thought about this. We were going to bring historical data in, and we were going to just declare these the same data set, completely broken. And in the raw zone or curated zone, the data would actually be bifurcated. And it turns out that means you would actually have to run no magic that these, on a certain date range, these two changed. And the place this really broke down, of course, is if they overlap, or if you didn't tell people what the changes were or what that date was, and you had to make sure all the repartitioning that ever happened, or reorganization of data in here that ever happened, was kept that same date partition so that those versions. So what I'm going to say here is, if you're building a system that's bringing in some updated data set and you've got some historical data and you want to be able to query it as a unified, then you should do that in two stages. Bring it in its own table, in its own versions, and then you can track this. You've got lineage on it. You can always go back and do data fixes on the individual types or updates or data retention, right to be forgotten. And then when you do the transforms, you do two slightly different sets of transforms to bring that into your shared zone. So this is like everything you wanted to know about breaking data changes in a data pipeline and where you're going to land it in less than 5 minutes. Have a great day.